and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today we've got a full slate of updates for you. This is the 109th episode of Hawks Latest, presented by Fan Arch. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. We're almost at 110. I'm super excited to continue covering this team into the season. We're in the preseason now, but the regular season is creeping up. I believe we're like 9 days away from opening night, where the Atlanta Hawks will take on the Toronto Raptors. But for now, we're in the preseason, and the Atlanta Hawks just picked up their first win of the preseason just a couple days ago. It was a 102-116 victory over the shorthanded Memphis Grizzlies. We're gonna break down what stood out in that game, really, including mentioning the strong performances from Jalen Johnson, Zachary Ricochet, and Kristaps Porzingis. Everyone kind of shined, and it was great to see, everything finally click on the court. I mean, it really only took like one preseason game for us to see how lethal this unit could be. We're also going to talk about Luke Kennard's quiet but meaningful revenge game. I don't even know if you can call it a revenge game. It's not like Memphis and Luke Kennard had bad blood, but they did let him walk to Atlanta. So, I mean, we're going to talk about, what he really did a few nights ago and why the Hawks draft night heist with the New Orleans Pelicans, the trade we all know and we all love, because thank you, Joe Dumars, and why it could turn out to be one of the biggest deals of the year, because there's an interesting development on that front, which makes the pick a whole lot more valuable. Finally, we'll wrap up with a quick preview of tonight's game at home. The Hawks are back in action tonight against the Miami Heat. It's their first time that the team gets to play on their home floor for the season. It's the first home game, so that's exciting. But it's happening tonight, so we've got a lot to talk about. So without further ado, let's waste no more time. Go ahead and jump right into it and talk about how the Hawks traveled to Memphis for the final road trip of the preseason. Up until tonight, it's been two road games. They trotted out what appears to be their likely starting five for opening night. This is now the second game in a row that they have rolled out this starting lineup. So I would, other than if there's an unexpected injury that happens, I would expect this to be the starting five you see on opening night against the Raptors. It's Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Ricochet, Jalen Johnson, and the Latvian big man Kristaps Porzingis, who looks to be the starter over Onyeka Okongwu. That shouldn't really come as much of a surprise, but Onyeka is going to play a vital role off the bench regardless. The Grizzlies, meanwhile, they were without key players, such as, their main two guys, Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., one of the most lethal duos really in the NBA when they're fully healthy. Both of them were sidelined due to injury, but they're resting the guys. Despite that, though, this game offered a great opportunity for Atlanta to really fine-tune its chemistry with its new lineup, because at the end of the day, it looks great on paper, but it is a new lineup. And they're going to take some time to gel. And I'm not expecting, I would love if Atlanta got out to a very quick start to the season. But, with the schedule being really difficult and this being a pretty new look team, it's the same core, but, a lot of new faces. It could take them a minute to really gel. But what we saw against Memphis was great. So from the opening tip, the Hawks offense looked really sharp. Crisp ball movement, elite spacing, and quick decision making, especially that of the guards. They as in Trae Young, really. But everyone else, but specifically in this instance, Trae Young found Zachary Ricochet in rhythm, 2 assists to him in the corner for wide open threes just to start the game. The Atlanta's first 6 points were off of 2 Zachary Ricochet threes. He looked great, and it's good to see after, he kind of had a bit of a rough first preseason game, but those pair of early threes really set the tone for what was a great offensive night for the Atlanta Hawks. The first quarter was pretty competitive, pretty even game, until Keaton Wallace checked in, who appears to be Atlanta's backup point guard this season. Now, I mean, maybe this is just kind of like a tryout for him to see if he should get a real rotation spot, either with the Hawks or in the NBA in general. But Keaton Wallace has been the 9th man for the Atlanta Hawks 2 games in a row now. And this is really surprising considering he's not on that official NBA deal. He's on a 2-way contract. So like I said, could either be an instance of they're like, let's see what you can do if you're in the rotation, and then if you perform well, we'll give you that standard contract that has been rumored for quite some time. It's something that I certainly expect to get done at some point, or they might just be like, let's play this 2-way guy as that 9th man, because we fully intend on signing him to a standard deal and for him to be the 9th man in the rotation when the season begins, which would be surprising, but I guess not really anymore, because we've seen it 2 times in a row. But once Keaton checked in, he gave Atlanta a big defensive spark. That's his specialty. I mean, he was among the top rookies last year in steals per game, just in terms of the rookie class. And so he's known for his defensive ability, but I mean, he's a very, very solid playmaker, just a very decent player who would round out the rotation pretty well. He helped them stretch that lead to 34-26 after the first at the first break. In the second quarter, Zachary Rizashe, the guy who had a great first quarter, knocking down 2 threes, he showed off more than just his shooting touch. He used his length and agility to finish around the rim and continued to look confident in transition. That is a key factor for the Atlanta Hawks this season, and they showcased it in this game. They've showcased it in both games, really. The pace of this team is unbelievable. It's probably some of the best in the NBA. There's some really advanced stats for pace and quickness, but I would assume Atlanta through 2 preseason games is near the top of however those are tracked, because the team looks super fast. They're getting out in transition. They're beating guys on backdoor cuts. This is a team always moving around, and it's been really effective so far. He continued to look confident in transition, like I said. The Hawks dominated the paint, though, and this was another key to their win. They constantly got downhill and, turned the corner on Memphis's defense. By halftime, Jalen Johnson led all scores with 14 points, a very dominant half for him. He continued that on in the third quarter, but they didn't play really after the third quarter. Rizashe added 12 in that first half. Coming out of the break, Atlanta's starting lineup stayed on the floor, which was a little surprising because in that first game, they only played the starters for one half. So I certainly wasn't expecting to see them on the floor to start that second half, but they left them out there. And you know what? That's valuable reps. This is a new team. They got to get all the reps they can get to prepare for the season. Kristaps Porzingis finally had his coming out party as a Hawk, flashing the inside-out skill set that makes him such a mismatch problem and such an effective player in the NBA for now, what has been like 10 seasons. Johnson's night ended after 3 quarters and really did the same thing for pretty much the rest of the key rotation players. It wasn't long before, but not before logging a stellar stat line. I mean, he looked great. He had 20 points the other night, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Just a very complete game. This is just in 3 quarters, by the way. It was just in 25 minutes of action. So, I mean, that's pretty good minutes for 3 quarters, but I mean, still, those are very effective numbers in that time period. Rizashe finished with 16 points, and Porzingis added 13 of his own. This front court is going to be absolutely lethal. In the fourth quarter, the deep bench took over for the starters and the real rotation players. Vit Krejci, Mohamed Gay, Asa Newell, and others, they saw extended minutes, just the core that, all of them could compete for, a lower spot in the main rotation, but, mainly just core pieces that once, if there was an injury or whatnot, Olivier Maxence Prosper, who was kind of a guy I wanted the Hawks to go after this summer after it was clear that his time with the Mavericks was done. Yeah, he was playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. He looked pretty good. The Memphis made that late push behind him and a couple of their guys that really wanted to step up and prove their worth in the NBA and get Memphis the win. It was too little too late though. Some timely buckets from Asa Newell, Atlanta's rookie, and Keaton Wallace. That sealed the deal, giving Atlanta the 122-116 win. So they advanced to 1-1 in the preseason, and it was a strong, balanced performance for a Hawks team that's clearly beginning to gel. I mean, this is just the beginning. This is the worst they're ever going to be. They're going to look to build on that momentum tonight back home against Miami. We're going to give a full preview of that game in just a little bit. We're going to conclude the episode with that, so be sure to be tuned in for that. But let's go ahead and move on to another key aspect of the game. And, the spotlight was seriously on Johnson and Rizashe and even Trae Young, who didn't have a, big night in the stat sheet, but was still very effective. One storyline that, stole the show was Luke Kennard's first game against his former team. It only took 18 minutes for Kennard to make Memphis regret letting him walk in free agency. He played significant bench minutes. I mean, for a preseason game, I would consider that significant bench minutes. This offseason, the Grizzlies made a very questionable decision, at least in my opinion, by parting ways with one of the league's most efficient shooters ever, Luke Kennard. He's like third in 3-point percentage for active players. Like no, not active, like all time. It's a ridiculous stat. The Hawks wasted no time capitalizing on the Grizzlies just deciding to let him walk. They signed him to that 1-year deal to really help the team address one of their biggest weaknesses from last season, 3-point shooting. And it's funny enough because Atlanta was near the top of the league in shot quality thanks to the playmaking of Trae Young and the others. I mean, really Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson and the rest of the playmakers. But it all starts with Trae Young, who is, the quarterback for the team. I mean, he is dishing out all of these assists, generating very easy looks for these guys. But we didn't have anyone who could hit him last year. Trae's best shooter last year was Georges Niang. And, while we appreciate his role and what he served in Atlanta, we can certainly do better. The front office knew that. They brought in a bunch of guys. They brought in a bunch of over 40% three-point shooters, and they look to have really addressed that issue. But they finished in the bottom half of the league in three-point percentage last year, despite being towards the top of the league in shot quality, which is kind of an unreal stat because you're getting the easiest looks of your life, just not connecting. But they addressed it. That's no longer a problem. It made general manager Anzi Solei's top priority clear: add more shooting without sacrificing the team's newfound defensive identity. Luke Kennard checks that box perfectly. He's a guy who's obviously a very good shooter. He's a sharp shooter, but a lot of times you see with some of these, sharpshooting specialists that's really all they are. They wait for that ball and they come get to the ball, but then they will light it up from three, and they won't really do much else. That's not Luke Kennard. I mean, he's a connector, he's a secondary playmaker, and he's someone who knows how to operate within the flow of really any offense he's ever been into. He's just an all-around good player. I mean, this is a guy who's not limited in his offensive capabilities. He's a very underrated playmaker. Got actually a good bit of run as a kind of a backup point guard in Memphis in his time there. He had a pretty heavy, share of his minutes at the point guard. While he wasn't a traditional point guard, they let him handle the rock a good bit, and that's really how it's been throughout his entire career. I mean, teams have relied on him for some secondary ball handling, and it's worked out. He's looked good in those minutes. The team has looked good in those minutes. The defensive numbers haven't really dropped, and the offensive numbers look great. So Atlanta's going to lean on him heavily this upcoming season for that. I was going to say last night. It wasn't last night. It was a couple nights ago in the game against Memphis, his former team. He boasted 6 rebounds and 3 assists to go along with the 4 points that he had. So it's not super insanely impressive numbers, but his impact went far beyond the box score. His spacing really opened up driving lanes for guys like Trae and Dyson, and his unselfish play allowed the bench unit to function seamlessly, even without Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was out for personal reasons. He's gonna supposedly coming back for this game against the Miami Heat tonight, and I don't want to talk too much about the Heat game tonight because we have a segment about that at the end of the episode. But it looks like he is going to be coming back. He was just out for personal reasons, but despite him not being in the second unit, who was a very crucial part of Atlanta's second unit, could be a candidate for Sixth Man of the Year. He was like top 6 in Sixth Man of the Year voting last year, so I certainly expect him to continue on that trend. But he wasn't there a couple nights ago, and Luke Kennard really stepped up and kind of led the way for that second unit. For Memphis, it's a case of, letting a valuable contributor go too easily. In 2.5 seasons there in Memphis, Kennard averaged 10 points per game and shot over 46% from deep. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm stumbling even saying it just because that doesn't sound real. 46% from deep over 2.5 seasons. It's ridiculous. It's elite numbers by any standard. But it's just the normal for Luke Kennard. This is something that we're going to be expecting to see in Atlanta. He's going to be an elite shooter, but he's also going to impact the game in several other ways. Atlanta might have just added the missing piece that could elevate them to a deeper playoff run. Something that we are all expecting and really hoping for this season. So the Hawks' strong preseason is just one part of what's been a stellar offseason overall. We've made national headlines for how amazing this offseason has been. General Manager Anzi Solei, his first offseason with the organization as the lead decision maker. When he took over, he made it clear that he wanted to build a roster capable of competing for a title while maintaining long-term flexibility, and they did just that. He's already made huge strides towards that goal. I mean, adding Kristaps Porzingis, the NBA champion, the NBA All-Star, Latvian big man who has developed a great reputation as a winner and an impactful player in the NBA. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who, like I said, always a Sixth Man of the Year candidate, very disruptive defender and also a pretty dang good three-point shooter and just offensive player in general. And Luke Kennard, who's statistically one of the best three-point shooters of all time, bringing all of them in. And Porzingis and Kennard both on one-year deals, so giving Atlanta optionality. That's the word that Anzi Saleh has really preached in his opening season press conferences and everything, giving Atlanta plenty of flexibility for next summer if everything doesn't work, which is highly unlikely. But the move that could define this era of Hawks basketball wasn't a free agent signing. It was that draft night trade that we've talked about on this channel a good bit. Atlanta traded down with the New Orleans Pelicans, moving from the 13th pick to the 23rd, down 10 spots. And the guy that they wanted at 13 was still there at 23. They got Asa Newell, the forward out of Georgia, who's expected to have a pretty high impact in his first few seasons as an Atlanta Hawk. To do so, and moving for New Orleans to move up with the Atlanta Hawks, they sent out an unprotected 2026 first round pick, sending that to Atlanta. It's from New Orleans. It's the more favorable of the Pelicans and the Bucks. So pretty much guaranteeing Atlanta a good pick. Whoever's worse between the Pelicans and the Bucks, Atlanta gets their pick, and that pick could be gold. Bleacher Report's Dan Fable, and here's where it gets a little more interesting, where this really takes a bit of a turn and why we're really talking about it in this episode. He recently listed Zion Williamson as one of the top 5 players most likely to request a trade this season. And if that happens, the New Orleans Pelicans could quickly spiral in a loaded Western Conference where there's going to be like 13 teams competing for a playoff spot. Not everyone's going to make it, and it's not going to be the Pelicans. I'd be really shocked if it was. Even if Zion stays, let's say he doesn't even request a trade, because, predicting a player requesting a trade is really difficult, and it's not something that you really can ever, because, that's why trade requests are always such big news. But even if he stays, and none of this drama even comes to life, the Pelicans roster looks shaky. It's not constructed for success in the NBA. It might look flashy. It might look like a team that could be pretty okay on NBA 2K. But in real life, this is not a team who's going to really make much noise in the NBA, which it shouldn't, but, NBA is unpredictable at times. They added Jordan Poole, and that doesn't necessarily make them a more cohesive team in the least. If things fall apart, Atlanta could easily be looking at a top 5 pick next summer, all while adding a player this past year that they already wanted at 13, Asa Newell. If this all plays out like I think it could, we might look back at this as one of the most lopsided draft trades in recent memory. A lot of people were even saying, because in the past year, obviously, the Luka Doncic trade happened, and that was the biggest trade, probably the most unexpected trade in NBA history. Sorry, my camera keeps shaking. I'm in an interesting spot, but nonetheless, people were even saying that, as bad as that Luka trade was, the Hawks Pelicans draft night trade might have been even worse. This is a deal that Atlanta looks to really have fleeced on, and we won't know exactly who won the trade until this upcoming season ends and we see where the Pelicans place. Well, really up until the draft lottery, because the Pelicans can miss the playoffs, but they could end up giving Atlanta pick 14, and then you're really kind of okay, it wasn't that big of a gamble, especially if Derek Queen turns out to be good. But if it goes how we think it's going to go, Atlanta might have fleeced the Pelicans, and Zion requesting out could just, send it to Atlanta just being more of a fleece than we ever could have imagined. So now let's look ahead to tonight. The Atlanta Hawks play tonight once again. We had a 5-day break in between the Hawks' first preseason game against the Rockets and then their second against the Grizzlies, both being away games. But now we're back at home and we're seeing consistent games pretty much from here on out. The Hawks return home tonight to State Farm Arena to play the Miami Heat for their third preseason game. Tip-off is actually set for 6 p.m. Eastern, so if you're heading to the arena, if you're going to the game tonight, just remember that. It's at 6. It's not at 7:30. There's a lot going on in Atlanta tonight. The Falcons are playing the Bills. So that's right next door to State Farm Arena. So it's going to be pretty bad, the traffic and everything. So Marta will be your friend. I'm going to be there at the Hawks game, of course. So if you see me, come say what's up. This will be the first chance for home fans to see this new look roster in person. Kind of a great opportunity. The energy inside State Farm Arena, although it's going to be a preseason game, it should be great. Fans are excited to see this new look team. The Kristaps Porzingis, all the new additions. It's going to be great. There's a lot of great energy heading into the regular season, which is very soon, just 9 days away. Given that this is the second game in 3 days, however, it would not be surprising if Quinn Snyder decides to rest a few key players. I wouldn't be surprised. This is their second game in 3 days. It's the preseason. You have a very injury-prone roster, if history is any indicator. So they got to be careful. But still, it's the very first home game of the season, technically. It's the preseason still, but I mean, this is the first chance for Hawks fans to get a real good look at the roster. I mean, we had events like FanFest, which I was media at. I was media. I was covering that event, and but there wasn't a whole lot there. They didn't even like scrimmage or anything. So for on-court activity, this is the first look at this new look team. I wouldn't be surprised if the starters at least saw some first half action just to kind of please the fans, and then you rest them in that last preseason game. But I'm not Quinn Snyder. I don't know what he's gonna do at the end of the day. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like I said, is expected to return after missing the Memphis game for personal reasons, and his presence should obviously give Atlanta a big defensive punch and some ball movement off the bench. Very impactful player. Very excited about that guy. On the other side, Miami is 0-4 in the preseason, so I think this is their final game. It is their final game. It is their final game. But yeah, so this will be their 5th preseason game. They're looking for their first win. They're going to be hungry. They don't want to head into the season losing all 5 preseason games. That is not a good indicator for how you're going to be in the upcoming season. So they might play a good bit of their guys. I'm not exactly sure, but Miami's second-year center Khalil Ware has been awesome, and he was one of my sleepers for the past draft class, last year's draft class. He was in Reese's draft class. If Atlanta stayed put, if Atlanta didn't all of a sudden get the first pick in the lottery with the lottery gods blessing us, Khalil Ware was one of my top targets. He was one of the guys that I thought Atlanta should take, but he's been killing it in the preseason. He had a very solid, underrated rookie season, and he's been turning heads so far through 4 games. If Porzingis does suit up, we could easily get a pretty intriguing center matchup. I mean, Porzingis versus Ware, both guys are over like 7-1. I mean, it would be, and both are great 3-point shooters. Just kind of like a very elite center matchup, and whatever minutes we see out of that could be very entertaining. So I'm looking forward to that. It's another great test for Atlanta's depth. With Miami looking to get their first preseason win, it's going to be a hard-fought battle. Atlanta's defensive structure, though, and their evolving chemistry before the regular season tips off later this month, it's important. I really hope they come out strong and maybe just avoid injuries. I think that's the top priority here. So whether they play the starters good minutes tonight or not, I'm looking forward to it. So to recap, the Hawks took care of business in Memphis behind standout performances from Jalen Johnson, Zachary Riezouche, and Kristaps Porzingis, the newcomer, the Latvian big man who we're really excited about. Luke Kennard showed flashes of why he was such a smart offseason addition. I mean, I'm so pleased about that signing. I think it's going to be very underrated and really impact Atlanta's postseason run. And the front office's long-term vision continues to look better with every passing game. We haven't even gotten to the regular season yet, but that's coming up very soon in just 9 days. We're going to see how they build on this momentum tonight at home against the Heat. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know your expectations for tonight's game. Let me know if you're going to be there. Let me know in the comments. Really everything about it. How do you feel about how Jalen Johnson's been playing, how this new look Hawks team in general just appears on the court? Are y'all happy with what you're seeing so far? Just let me know it all down below. But once again, thank you guys for watching. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I'll see you guys next time.